Welcome to Lehigh Valley Art Salon. I'm Paul Willestein. Today we're talking about the Allentown Film Festival. It's the first annual Allentown Film Festival. And we're here with Alan Yunkin. He is the director of the film festival, and also Michael Shelp, and he is the president of the film festival. Welcome, guys.
Good to be here.
Good to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome, and congratulations on this new event. Let's tell the folks when it starts. How about
So
Alan?
we have events Thursday, April 13th through Sunday, April 16th at 6 different venues. The Civic Theater's 2 venues, the Theater 514 and the 19th Street Theater. We also have events at the Allentown Art Museum, the Bradbury Sullivan Center, the Downtown Market, and Miller Symphony Hall.
Great. Now, this is a first, and maybe, Michael, you can explain sort of how this was developed, how it came about, where you got the idea from for this.
So Alan and I produced a documentary about Allentown called Broken around 3 years ago, and we put it in film festivals, and we ended up being accepted in 16. And we really, including Black Bear up in Milford, Pennsylvania. And that was a really good experience for us. And we realized that Allentown doesn't have a film festival. There's the wonderful Southside Festival here in Bethlehem, but Allentown didn't have one. And so back 20, 30 years ago when you had a film festival, you had to have VHS tapes sent in and such. Now, there's something called Film Freeway and a couple other sites where it's like the common app with students and going to college. You upload your film, you say, I'm a filmmaker, this is my film, and you can submit it to many, many different festivals. So it's quite simple. So we thought, well, this is great. Why don't we just go on Film Freeway, start the Allentown Film Festival. And we also had a relationship with the Civic Theater, which is this extraordinarily beautiful theater in Allentown. Mm-hmm. So we went to them first and said, we'd like to do a film festival. And they said, great. They were very supportive. We did a quick memo of understanding with them. Then we went to Film Freeway, and we've been working hard ever since.
Well, now, Alan, when were the films submitted, and when was the deadline, and how many films were submitted, and how many films will be shown?
So back in August, we created the Allentown Film Festival, and then we got 501c3 nonprofit status. We started taking submissions in September of 2022, and then the deadline was March 15th. We got a total of nearly 600 films from 50 countries worldwide, and we've accepted just a little over 150 films, and we've curated them into 16 different screening blocks. It's a mix of shorts up to feature-length films.
Great. And would you say, Alan, most of the films are from the Lehigh Valley, or are they from the United States, or where are they from?
So about a third of our films are from the Lehigh Valley area. We have basically a festival within a festival. We have the Lehigh Valley Shorts Competition, 1 to 5 minute short films in 3 categories: kindergarten through 12th, college, and then non-student Lehigh Valley filmmakers. And so we got a lot of entries from there. And then in addition to the short competition, we have a fair number of short films and 1 feature-length film that is from local filmmakers.
And Michael, do you have any favorite films to recommend to people that will be showing?
Well, yes, I do. I think some of the local ones are really, really great. There's one, for instance, there's a Bethlehem area filmmaker named Matthew Heffner who did something called Forged in Steel, which is absolutely brilliant. It's an 8-minute film. It's a short film, but he interviewed actual steel workers who worked at Bethlehem Steel, and he got the most remarkable stock footage. I was quite well. I guess he worked with the museum over here, but that's a really great film. There are a lot of great films, and I do enjoy some of the local ones.
Great.
Another local one that I really like, it's a feature-length one called Bitter Taste of Ginger, directed by Brandon Lay, a local guy here from Bethlehem.
Wow. Is that a horror film?
It's an art house horror thriller. And so when we curated our films into different blocks, we do have one block called the Art House Horror Thrillers, which includes Bitter Taste of Ginger, and then a couple shorts that coordinate with that. And so it was really fun curating them into the different blocks after watching all the films and then our judges rating them, which we do have 50 judges that helped us with that. Then we curated them into different genres. In addition to the art house horror thriller, we have wacky comedy, we have drama, and we have a gory horror one, and everything in between.
Now, if people want to come to the festival, Michael, how might they do that? Where are tickets available? Are they online or are they at the door?
Both, but definitely at allentownfilmfestival.org is a place to go, and you can get your tickets there. I want to follow up what Alan was saying with Brandon Lay. What's been interesting to me, so I worked in Tokyo and New York in the television business, and I sold Iron Chef to the Food Network, and I developed and sold TV shows for ESPN and Spike and Food Network and others. And so I worked and there's a lot of money in television, and I worked with a lot of professionals who got paid well. And what's really interesting with this film festival are people, they're doing it, sure, they do it for the money in some cases, but there's a lot of passion. And for instance, the Bitter Taste of Ginger is a really well-produced independent film here in the area. And I think it looks as good as a lot of stuff coming out of Hollywood, but just the financials are so different. It's so different. Like in Los Angeles, when you produce a film, you spend millions and millions of dollars, and they spend millions and millions of dollars marketing it. And of course, you have Meryl Streep. Whereas here we have some wonderful local actors and actresses, and the films are really good, but they don't have that. But they're just good.
Sure.
And I might also add, so when you go to allentownfilmfestival.org, you see each of our screening blocks with a representative picture, a description of the genre, and then we have each film listed out with a short description, and many of them have a link to a trailer. So it's a really informative website to look and choose, and then you click right there and you buy your tickets online.
I liked especially the titles that you have for the blocks. For example, you mentioned about the wacky ones, and I think it's very creative just from that aspect. It's a very interesting website to go to.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun coming up with the titles, coming up with the taglines underneath them.
Yeah. You mentioned about the Bradbury Sullivan, and I don't know either of you want to take this, but I know there's an anecdote connected with that for a film that was presented there by two women who
Yes.
are kind of new to the area and kind of new to filmmaking, apparently. And I think that is emblematic of what the festival might represent for people. I don't know if, Michael, do you want to take
Exactly. So we did the screening block at the Bradbury Sullivan. That was a kickoff event. And there's two wonderful women from Brazil. And they apparently saw news about the film festival on an online posting or a poster somewhere. And they thought, oh, good. And so they made this kind of really, I would describe it as heartwarming film. It was only 2 minutes long. And it was music and them. They were kind of transplanting a bamboo and showing their new life in Allentown. It was kind of a metaphor. So one of them is an electrical engineer and got a job at PPL, and the other is a psychologist. And so they moved to the area for work, and they'd never been here before, and it was a totally new life. And it was just a really sweet little film, and I described it as a cinematic gem. But they were really quite thrilled to be involved, and they made the film because they saw a poster about the film festival. And so I believe the most important form of communication is writing, bar none. But then these days, more and more, the ability to communicate through video is important. And it is a skill. And so one of the reasons we started the film festival is we really want to encourage people in the Lehigh Valley to learn that skill. And the only way to do it is to try it. So there's two women from Brazil, Carla, and I think it was Layla. They were just wonderful. And then I said, "You please make another film next year." And said, yes, make it a little longer, a little more. Again, it's a sweet little film about a metaphor of them coming to the area.
And the aspect of the bamboo, I believe, is especially interesting because it's the transplantation.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Of their own lives.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And do you find now, in talking with some of the filmmakers, that has been the case where the festival encouraged them to make a film? Alan?
Yeah, in a lot of cases. So we have a real mix of the local people that have entered. For the college entries, many of those are college students in film in the local colleges. We have DeSales, Muhlenberg, Lafayette, and Lehigh.
Yeah.
Those are probably the main ones that we've gotten the college students from. And the K through 12, some of them had been working on projects at school. Some of them were just inspired by the contest to do it on their own, either on their iPhone and editing. And then the same with the Lehigh Valley, the non-students. Some of those are parts of a group of people that make films. Others just thought they'd give it a try because they saw the poster.
Now, Michael, do you expect a lot of filmmakers to be present? And is there a format? Will there be Q&A during the different blocks afterwards?
Yes, it looks like a lot of the filmmakers are going to be joining us, which is exciting. And yes, we'll definitely have panel discussions afterwards. I think that's one of the most interesting things about a film festival, to meet them and allow the audience to offer them feedback. I will also say, in terms of the local participation, we worked with the Community Music School, which is a wonderful school in Allentown, nonprofit, and they set up a class for students. It was a kind of a crash class because there wasn't much time, just 2 months ago. And they got 6 students, I think it was, and they all made little films, and we accepted of those 4, and they're great.
Wow.
So we kind of look forward to working with different institutions in the area and having them encourage their students, whatever, to make films, and then we'll work with them, and then we'll accept them in the film
And
festival.
CMS, Community Music School, as I understand, they have a studio there,
They do.
a sound and film studio that they've created.
Yeah, and the nice thing about their entries were the music in each of their videos were ones that they composed themselves, and then some used stock footage images, which were nice. Some shot their own images, so it was a real nice mix of films that we got from the Community Music School.
Well, I think that the settings of the screenings are going to be pretty amazing, too. You speak about Civic Theater, for example, the main theater and Theater 514. Those are just great venues. Are you excited about showing films there?
We are, yeah. I mean, we love the Civic Theater for all the things they do, and we think that bringing the film festival to them just adds a nice variety of the things that are happening there. And both theaters are great. The Theater 514 seats around 85, and so it's a nice size for a lot of our screenings. But then 19th Street Theater seats somewhere around 450, and it'll hold a larger crowd. And it's just such a beautiful theater that the people that are having their films screened there are just really excited to see their film in such a beautiful venue.
So we came from New York, actually, and fell in love with Allentown. And one of the reasons we're doing the Allentown Film Festival is because there are these extraordinary institutions like the Civic Theater, like the Allentown Art Museum, like the Miller Symphony Hall at Bradbury Sullivan and the Market. And so we are doing screenings in all of those different places, extraordinary buildings. And those buildings, if they were on Fifth Avenue in New York, you would say, of course, because they're so extraordinary and so beautiful, and yet people don't know about them. They don't know about Allentown in general. So we hope to create the festival year after year and draw people to Allentown from Philadelphia, New York, D.C., from the East Coast, just to come and spend like a weekend or a couple of days here experiencing what we have to offer. Because I think just people, we were shocked, and I think people would be shocked just how extraordinary the things that Allentown has to offer.
Well, thank you very much. We're going to take a short break now. Here on Lehigh Valley Art Salon, we're talking about the Allentown Film Festival with Alan Yunkin and Michael Shelp. We'll be right back.
Thank you to the members of WDIY for making all the programming you hear possible. Becoming a WDIY member is the best way to support your listening and to ensure WDIY will be here for the next person in our community to discover. Make your membership gift today at 610-694-8100 extension 4 or WDIY.org. We couldn't be here without you.
Welcome back to Lehigh Valley Art Salon. I'm Paul Willenstein. You normally hear me with my movie reviews at the movies. I'm here today to talk about the Allentown Film Festival with Alan Yunkin. He is the director of the festival, and also Michael Shelp. He's the president of the festival. This is something new for the Lehigh Valley, something new for Allentown. In fact, Michael and Alan discovered that the website and the name was available.
Yes.
That was probably a surprise.
Yes, that's one of the reasons we did it. We thought, oh my gosh, the AllentownFilmFestival.org and AllentownFilmFestival.com were both available, and thought, oh my gosh, this is crazy, and it's such a great name. I mean, again, I love the Southside Film Festival here in Bethlehem, but
Sure.
it's not the Bethlehem Film Festival.
And there's also the Lehigh Valley Film
Yes,
Festival,
which
which
is
is at Steel Stacks Arts Quest.
But here's the thing. If you go to someone in North Carolina or Chicago and say, Lehigh Valley Film Festival, they'll be like, where's that?
Yeah.
If you say Southside, Chicago, no. But if you say Allentown, they kind of know. Because of Billy Joel
Sure.
and because of other things, most Americans kind of know that Allentown exists somewhere in Pennsylvania.
And I know there's an interesting aspect to the fact that Allentown did not have a film festival, and that is, I don't know if either one of you want to take this, but compared to Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, for example, Alan?
I'll take that.
Okay.
So when we registered on Film Freeway and started looking, Allentown had no festivals until we're here. Philadelphia has 40 film festivals listed on Film Freeway, and Pittsburgh has 20. So there's just a really great need for a good film festival here.
Especially Allentown, the third largest city in the state.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I know that you guys also make films, and I did see your film Broken, which was presented at the Civic Theater. I believe it was September of 2022 when it was
last year.
presented.
Yes.
And very impressive film. I loved the way you combined graphics with it. I loved the animation you did as part of the film. This sort of on-screen commentary, or lower thirds, the words on screen, the way you did that.
We could say every gimmick in the television book.
Well, it worked, and the film was, I would say, it was humorous, but it was also serious in terms of what people deal with in terms of Broken.
Right.
It was in a sort of post-pandemic era. So I thought it was very interesting. Everybody had a story, and everybody had kind of a story of struggling, I would think.
So we used every trick in the book to make it as compelling as possible, but the subject matter is extremely serious. So I have 3 children between the ages of 25 and 30. So Alan's got 4 children around the same age. And when we were younger, I just think it was a lot easier. And I think with the cost of education and healthcare and housing, it's just those are the subjects we really tackled. And the other thing, so I worked in television for decades. The thing that I find most disturbing about television news is that when you see a commercial, a news story on television, and they talk about a fire or anything, and they interview people, what people don't realize is that that's almost an audition. In other words, when they have a fire, they'll interview 20 people. And most people will be like, it's a fire, what are you going to do? But they'll have 2 or 3 like, oh my gosh, I saw the burning building. I thought it was going to collapse on me. That's what they use. Now, that's okay, because that's the most interesting, right? But that's not what most people really felt. So every time you see a television news report, it's a little dishonest in that they're using the most extreme, dramatic, melodramatic responses. For Broken, we just found 12 people at random, 13, and we just interviewed them. Literally the first 13 people. We wanted diversity in terms of age and, of course, race and everything, gender. But we just found the first 13 that were willing to talk to us. And that's why it seems so raw and so real and so authentic. Because it was just shocking. If you just...
Well, in the business, it's called actualities.
Yes.
And yet, as you're saying, in other words, it's called reality TV, and yet we all know it's scripted and so forth and so on.
Paul, I actually worked on a couple of reality TV shows for, I shouldn't say a network associated with NBC, but I did. So what happened, this is the reality with reality TV. We had 12 archetypes we had to cast, okay? We had to have a sad sap. So one day I just sat and watched reel after reel or audition reel after, I was this, and my mother died. It was just really sad. And then we had the duplicitous. We had a duplicitous archetype we had to fill. So when you see reality TV, it's the least real. It's completely non-realistic. You find a type and you cast someone to be in that role.
I'm wondering if, for Broken, we did not discuss this beforehand, folks. I'm wondering if you're thinking of maybe a follow-up with the people and how they're doing now.
That's an interesting idea. We haven't really...
Almost like 7 Up, the series.
Yes.
Yeah, we've had that question before. Other people have thought that. So it's a good idea, and we'll have to think about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to talk about your most recent film, and this will be shown during the Allentown Film Festival, and it's called Married to the Mayor. Great title, by the way. And tell us a little bit about that, Alan or Michael.
Well, I just want to say one thing before that.
Okay.
So the one thing about film festivals is it's not cool for the festival directors or managers to have a bunch of their own films. We do have a few just because we wanted to generate some publicity. That's the only reason. But we have dozens of hours, and we only have a few minutes of our own little short films. And we did that to try and get publicity, which we've gotten.
Right.
Like you just asked about it.
Yeah, sure. So tell us about Married to the Mayor.
So Alan and I moved to Allentown, and one of the great things about Allentown is we met the mayor. Because, I mean, I lived in New York for many years, and I have met some of the mayors, but in my professional capacity, but you didn't really talk to them. I didn't really talk to them, like Bloomberg and Giuliani, I guess I met, but not really, I just kind of met them briefly. But here in Allentown, I met Mayor Matt Turk, and I just talked to him. We'd see him all the time at New Year's Eve downtown, at the park. We just see him all the time. And we kind of noticed he had this beautiful but also charismatic wife, which we named Karen, whom we didn't really talk to. Then last year, we were at an event at the Symphony, and we sat and talked to Karen and Matt. And Karen and Matt met when they were in high school. And Karen was actually dating Matt's best friend. And I thought, oh, wow, that's an interesting story. So when we were doing the film festival, I said, Karen, I just wrote a letter and just sent it to her. I said, Karen, Alan and I are such fans. Is there any chance you would let us do a film about you? And she wrote back and said, well, okay, I really support the film festival, so okay. And it's really, really a good film, by the way.
And she also commented that she was hesitant, and her two daughters convinced her to do it. So, so they get credit for that.
Executive producer.
They're executive producers of it, actually.
Terrific.
But so the film itself is it's short. It's like 8-9 minutes. But it's about first it's about her background, which is interesting, and she's really quite captivating. And then it talks about just the campaign itself, and then what it's like to be married to the mayor in Allentown, and how her life has changed. And it's just, again, it's very, very real. And it's very, very, it's interesting. I will say this, the New York Times, these years ago, I was at a dinner party years ago with an editor from the New York Times, and I was talking about, well, the New York Times, I think it probably maybe skews a little left. And he said, Michael, you don't get it. The New York Times is obsessed with two things, business and winners. And he's an editor. And he said, the New York Times, if someone's a winner, we just love them. And the fact is, the Turks they were winners. And that's one of the reasons it's such an interesting story. He's the winner. He won as the mayor of Allentown. But he's a great guy.
That's right.
As is his wife. And so in terms dramatically, it's just an interesting story because he succeeded brilliantly. He became the mayor.
And he basically walked the city.
Yeah.
And ran the city in his running shoes and walking shoes.
Yes.
In terms of his campaign.
Yeah. So he's a good mayor, I think, and his wife is absolutely captivating. But again, the story is great because he succeeded. Americans love success stories, and he is a huge success story because he is the mayor of Allentown. So,
well, let's talk. Okay.
And I have to say, the film turned out really well. We've shown it to a few people, and they've loved it. And we did show it to Mayor Matt Turk and Karen, and when they got done, they loved it. And we got a quote from Matt, something to the effect of, I really love it. Now everyone in Allentown will see what I love about Karen.
Oh, yeah. That's so sweet. Well, let's talk about the success of the Allentown Film Festival because it sounds like it's already a success. You mentioned that there were some 600 entries and you chose some 150 films. Let's try to explain to folks why a film festival is important. For example, there are a lot of shorts in the festival. It's difficult to see films nowadays that are shorts, and it's even difficult to get people to see films nowadays. So what do you think is the importance of a film festival generally? Alan?
Well, one thing I would say is that, like you said, there are so many places you can just stream anything and everything from your own home, and you're just isolated doing that. So with a film festival, it's nice to get together as a group, watch it together, be involved in the panel discussion and talk to the filmmakers and just come together as a group and socialize with people.
Mm-hmm. And as we were saying earlier, this is Michael, and as you were saying earlier, when we started the film festival, it's kind of interesting how it's evolved even for us. At this point, it really is, I think, one of the main goals is to help people in the Lehigh Valley just create films, to produce films, short films, and to understand what the medium is, and to hopefully bring their friends out. Because it is, to be able to communicate what you want to say through film is a very important skill.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk about some of the aspects of the festival also. There's some fun aspects. I know there's going to be some music, there's going to be some parties, there's going to be red carpet, there's going to be awards. So let's talk about the presentation and the prizes that people might receive concerning the festival.
So
This is Alan?
Yeah, this is Alan. So
Okay.
each filmmaker will be presented with an official Allentown Film Festival medal, and those are modeled after the type of medal you get when you run a marathon. Michael and I have run marathons. We got these medals that are really cool, and so we found out where those are made. We custom designed one, and so we will be presenting a medal to each of the filmmakers on the red carpet as they arrive, and that'll be really fun for them. And then in addition to that, we have various categories of best of various types of things, and we'll be giving awards for that as well.
And there's some music, I understand.
Yes. So one of our music videos called Lost in Time was made by a group up in the Hudson Valley in New York. And it's just a really funky, fun video. And we accepted it. Our
the Dust
judges.
Bowl Fairies.
The Dust Bowl Fairies are the musical group in it. And after we accepted it, they expressed an interest in coming to the festival. So they'll be there. They'll be performing live at the intermissions between screenings, as well as after the final screening on Saturday night, and then again Sunday evening at our closing reception at Miller Symphony Hall.
Wonderful. And what type of music do they play, would you say?
They describe it as dark circus something. They're dressed up in old period costumes, and one of them plays an accordion and one plays a guitar, and so
I would describe it as rock. It's kind of it's easy to listen. It's enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, I'm really looking forward to the Allentown Film Festival. Let's tell folks again where they can get tickets and where the venues will be. Okay, Alan?
Tickets are at allentownfilmfestival.org. It lists all of our screening blocks and the films within them, and each of those blocks has a link to go online to buy them. You can also buy them at the door. And the venues, most of the films will be screened at the Civic Theater on 19th Street, both the 19th Street Theater and Theater 514. And then we also have a block at the downtown Allentown Market, the Allentown Art Museum, and then the Lyric Room of Miller Symphony Hall.
And the downtown market is a free event, so.
Wonderful. Well, I'd like to thank both of you for being on Lehigh Valley Art Salon. We've been speaking with Alan Yunkin. He is the director of the Allentown Film Festival. And Michael Schelp is the president of the Allentown Film Festival. I'm Paul Willestein. Thank you for listening to Lehigh Valley Art Salon.
Thank you.
Thank you.